Okay, let's see if we can get a ball bouncing around a little better in this video. This is the Pong game so far. It just has one paddle working with the keyboard. Just kind of, you have to press and hold to kind of get the auto repeat working, but it will move up and down. Ball is not moving. And we'll kind of take this one step at a time. So we'll get the ball moving even though it might not be exactly what we want it to do just yet. We talked about variables in the last video, and there's a few things about variables I didn't mention. Really should check. I'll post some links for some tutorials to look at for some of the further details in some of these basic areas. But the name of your variable, just quickly, has to be start with letters. Let's just say this, start it with letters. You can have some numbers in there and you can have an underscore, and it has to be all one word. So don't, it couldn't have been ball Y like that with the space in there. I'm creating them up here again as global variables, and I knew that I put it at 400, 300 initially to start it. So I'm kind of doing the same thing I did last time, where I just change it to variables and just run it again. It looks exactly the same, but of course if I were to change the value of the Y variable, so it's 200 pixels above its current position there, and it moves up. Okay, so that gets us the ball. Now we're able to move it now, so there is where we draw it using those variables. And I'd like to do the updating before I draw it. So I'm going to place another comment in here, and I'll just call it updates. So this is where we're going to make any changes. So for instance, let's just say that we're going to move ball X by 1 pixel. You saw this work a moment ago, kind of doing the same thing I've done a few times in a few videos now, but I'm about to try to kind of modify this in the draw loop. Seemed to work before. Suddenly it's not working. This error reference before assignments coming up. Why is that happening? So this variable is a global variable, and we really need to talk about functions and use functions and get a really solid understanding. If there's one thing that really is important about learning its functions, so we'll do a video about that as well. But in a nutshell, we were allowed to use the global variable so long as we didn't try to change it. As soon as we try to change it, which is what we're doing here, this is finding out what the current value is. This is adding 1 to that value. And then this is saying, hey, whatever that new value is, so in this case 401, assign it, change the variable ball X to no longer be 400, but now be 401. So this is assignment here, the same thing, but we did this at the top of the program in the global area, and now we're trying to do it down here in the inside of a function called draw, and Python doesn't like that. So we better tell it, hey, we're okay with that. We're gonna modify this variable. Please change it for us by 1 pixel, and there you go. You see it moving now. So, and it's going to, of course, keep moving. It's not an error to draw it at, the screen is 800 wide, so we're drawing it at 900 right now. That's not an error. It just doesn't appear on the screen. Now, we could do the same thing with the Y variable, and we would see it move diagonally. The tricky part is, of course, was when it's going to bounce somewhere. So I think we left it here and we said, oh, we're going to have to make it bounce there. So it's going to have to bounce up off of the bottom. And, first of all, we have to find where it hits the wall. Okay, that's an important part. And then we have to have a way of changing the direction of its motion. So the direction of the motion, like for instance, it would go up after that bounce occurs. Okay, so we'll talk about how that will work. So, let's find out first if the ball is running off the bottom of the screen. Okay, so check for bounce at bottom of screen. And move ball. Okay, so bottom of the screen is a vertical and question, and the question is, hey, is the variable for the ball, the vertical position of the ball, is it greater than the bottom of the screen? The bottom of the screen is 800. Kind of can see that this is probably at this point, it'd be useful to have that in a variable because we're probably going to use this over and over again. If I'm not mistaken, because we created the screen, because we've created this screen at 800, 600, I think after we create it, processing has a variable for us that has stored the height of the screen. So no. I thought it was height and width. Can I just not spell height? No. Okay, maybe not. All right, well, you know what? We will. This is a reference question. Back to the reference manual. I was sure there was display width. So it's width and height, but not in all caps, it looks like. So okay, so there it's printing the height of the screen. And because we made it 600 up here, that's what it is. So we didn't have to create that variable. Okay, so if it's greater than the height of the screen, let's just see if it's working. We'll just print bounce. I think we did this last time as well. But okay, so it's not bouncing, it hits the bottom of the screen, we're looking down here, and then suddenly we see those ifs. We're seeing many of them. Don't forget the draw loop runs repeatedly, so it keeps moving it further and further down. This if statement keeps, being true, right? The variable after it's greater than 600 is greater than the height, so it prints bounce. It kind of had to go off the screen before it bounced. I'm just going to subtract 20 off. That's actually the height of the ball. So it will print that bounce as soon as it touches the bottom. Okay, if you don't believe me, let's just slow it right down. And I'll put the ball to begin with, very close to the bottom of the screen. And I'll slow it down. There's a thing called frame rate. Currently it's probably about 60. I'll just make it really slow, 4 frames per second. So, oops. I said it would have to be 20 away, so that's going to be the initial bounce. So let's at least give us a few moments to see it moving. And you see it hit the bounce as soon as it kind of tucked into the bottom there, okay? So this is useful for debugging because it's set to 60 currently, but sometimes you need to slow down. Okay, so now this is obviously not what we want it to do. We don't want it to print bounce every time. We want it to actually start moving up. So, this condition would become this in this case. Okay, so that's moving up. Okay, why is it moving up like that? It's instead of going down with y increasing in the down direction. Remember, the origin in processing, the origin is up here. This is 0, 0. So every time we increase y, it's going down. So when we decrease it, it starts going up. All right, so it's this thing that needs to change. Of course, that's a number. That doesn't change. We can't change the number. We have to use, probably recognize at this point, we have to change it by a variable. So we need a variable. I like to call it dy. And if we're making one for x, we should make one for y. We'll make one for x as well. this is kind of the, the rate of change or the speed or the velocity of the ball. So, and kind of like in physics, you might kind of call it dx and dy. So both of these can be variables, and remember, if we're going to change these variables, we better add them to our global list. And when do we change it? We change it right here when we bounce off of, oops, that's a lot of, okay, so moving down, it just bounced automatically. Let's get the ball a little further. Let's put it back in the middle. So it should just touch and bounce. You can do that for all 4 borders. I would do it for all 4 to begin with because it'll maybe make the game easier. So you can bounce it off of here as well. Let's do that. Let's just bounce off of this edge as well. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make it move to the left because we have the left paddle working. Okay, so it's going to bounce off this wall. And I'm going to move this paddle down a bit. I'm going to bounce it off of here just to get something started. So, but we're going to change that. Okay, so this is going to be our first attempt to bounce off the paddle. So I'm kind of moving quickly. I'm going to leave a bunch of things for you to fill in, but let's bounce off the paddle. But for a starting point, kind of an easier sub-problem, I guess, as they say, is let's just bounce off the edge. We already know how to do that. We want to check if if ball x, is less than some value. I'm going to say 20 again because I figure that's when it's going to hit the wall, right? So if the x position of the ball is less than, actually it's the ball is drawn by the top left corner, so we really want it to find out if it tries to draw it at 1 pixel beyond this line. Okay, so that's going to be the edge of the ball hitting this edge, the left edge. And because I changed it to, remember it's moving left now, -1. And so if it hits the left edge, I'm going to move it to +1 to bounce it. So we're going to have 2 bounces working now. It's going to bounce up here and then bounce off of there and continue up. Okay? Now it's going to do nothing. There's no bouncing here and no bouncing if it got over there, but those are for you to finish. But obviously that's bouncing off the edge of the screen. And really in this game, this really should be a point for the right player. That's really what should happen there. And so instead of doing something like changing dx to 1, what we probably really mean to do there is give the user a point. And so you can see it just bounced once. It didn't keep printing that. That's because on the next frame of draw, it started moving right, so it no longer was in that kind of condition there. So, just because we're at this point here, we should let's just quickly look at what that could look like. So if you had a score for the left player and a score for the right player, we'd just be following the same formula here. So you would want to change, I think the right player gets the point when it goes out. So the right player's score should increase here. So you would follow the same process. So score left, score right. I hope, let's see if okay, so I made those global, and really this person's point should go up. Score right. Here's a little shortcut. This actually means score right equals score right +1. Okay, plus equals. It's a nice little shortcut. Okay, and let's just see that we get no errors. And we're not displaying the score properly. Right now we're just displaying the value 0. So no errors there, but can we fix that? So this is the one on the right. This is the right player score. So can we just dump in score right here? Is that going to work? So far it seems to be working. It seems to accept the integer rather than the string. Oh, and look, there's the point working. So there's another small piece of the puzzle coming together. Now, obviously in the game Pong, if you scored a point, it wouldn't bounce off the back wall. It would return to the middle. I'm not going to think about that instead I'm going to think about bouncing off the paddle. That was originally what I was thinking of doing here. So this shouldn't happen. This is really gone off the end, and the right player gets a point. Okay, so that's really what happened there. But let's try to get another if statement working here for the bouncing off the paddle. So, you know, we got to do more here. Move ball to the center. That's kind of our next step. But that's okay. We'll come back to that. And right, so we're trying to find out if we hit the paddle. Okay, so let's be clear about where the paddle is. It's not actually at the edge of the screen, it's over here. So we need to know where this line is. Not only do we need to know the x position of this line, we need to know where it starts at this y location and where it ends. Because the ball hitting this paddle, it only occurs when the ball's left edge is at this x position. We know how to do that already. But we only check it with like that. It's only that is only hitting the paddle if it's between this y and this y. If it's down here, it's not hitting the paddle. So usually I'd like to draw that, but we're not quite, that's not working. So here's the edge of the paddle, top left corner, 50, okay? And then 20 to the right of that. So we are looking for x equals 70 at this point, x equals 70. So got to go down here. This is already getting to be, you can see why these comments are important and kind of being organized and consistent, because this is going to, you know, get confusing. If not already, then very soon. There's enough code here. So you really want to kind of keep those comments coming, keep things grouped up in a way that makes sense. Okay, let's write two if statements, and then we'll just kind of clean it up. So ball y, all right, has to be greater than, it has to be below, greater than is below. So the top of the paddle, and it has to be also above the bottom of the paddle. So top of the paddle, let's just remember what the paddle looks like again. I'm scrolling around a lot here. Okay, the paddle starts at left y and it goes for 80 more. So top of the paddle is left y. Okay. And what's the bottom of the paddle? Well, ball y. Okay, if it's going to be above the ball y variable, sorry, the left y variable, then that means it's the ball y. If ball y is greater than left y, that means the ball y is somewhere below it. So what is it that would be above this line? Well, ball y has to be less than that left y variable plus 80, because 80 was the height of the paddle. Okay, so we've got multiple if statements here. I know this might be a little bit much, but we've got one thing here that we're checking, and then we're checking the other thing here. I had to add in the height of the paddle there, so that looks a little more complicated, but it just says, you know, is the variable less than the bottom edge, okay? And if it's between those two, then and at the same time it's doing this, then it should be bouncing. Let's just see that it works. And I'm not going to be able to get down in time. Oh, no, not. Oh. Boo. Cheating. What? I changed the wrong thing. This one. Let's get the... What's going on? Okay. There it is. Oh, and now I changed the ball too accidentally. Can I do it? No, I still can't. Why did I change the ball? That was wrong. Okay. This is... Now I've set this up so I can't fail. Bounce off the wall. Where are you going to be? There. Oh, yes, it works. It works. Now let's say I'm really bad. Going up. Oh, we already saw this. This also works. Okay. Below the paddle. Doesn't bounce the other way. Say I'm too far down. Okay, so this is good. Looks like it's working. Okay, and does this look the best? Is this, you know, these, let's just say for a moment, for like, this could be written like this, all of these together. Is this one true? Okay, well, is this one also true? And is this one also true? We could write it that way. It looks really complicated, but so does, you know, using the and statements. That kind of, this is the alternative. Is this one true? And is this one true? And is this one true? So it's just very long and falls off the edge there. So you can do it either way. Okay, so there's the ball bouncing. There's the start of it bouncing off a paddle, and I'm going to stop there. That was a lot, but hopefully that kind of can get you working, and hopefully you saw enough of the things that can go wrong that you can kind of troubleshoot any problems you're having as well. And good luck.